Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome back to What Shall We Do Next, and today I wanted to talk about Titanic II. I briefly talked about this yesterday. I said I was going to start this new Titanic series throughout the whole month of April and take a look at some Titanic movies, and well, I thought I would kick it off with Titanic II, which it's not exactly a direct sequel from the first movie, which I'm assuming they're going by the 1997 James Cameron movie, but it is, I don't know, it's like basically a cheap kind of a mock and reenactment of Titanic #1. I don't know. It's so bad, honestly. I don't really have anything good to say about this movie. Aside from the fact it gave me a good chuckle now and then, I did find it somewhat amusing in some parts. Not necessarily because it was trying to be funny, but just because of how bad the acting was. It was just funny. Like, I couldn't help but laugh. Not necessarily just the acting, but the dialogue, the graphics. Oh my god, don't even get me started on the actual CGI effects of the ship and the fact that the ship was like changing in every scene. So like, it starts off with, you get a viewpoint, like when you first see the ship, you see it, and it's literally the Queen Mary, which is in Long Beach, California. And you just look at it and you just know that's Queen Mary, except they've like computer generated the word Titanic 2 on the side of it in huge big block capitals. And later on in the film, you see like the same shot again, or I mean the same angle, when it's out on the sea. But it's like, it looks so cartoony that you can't even really take it seriously anyway. People have described it as sci-fi kind of effects, but it looks just so much worse than that to me. It would show like an actual CGI version of the real Titanic and try to pass it off as like the same ship that they showed us at the beginning of the movie before it even left the dock. Not to mention the whole story was just kind of silly and goofy, and the fact that there was literally like no more than 30 extras in this entire movie. Like, you kept seeing the same extras in the background every other scene, and so like, when you start to see the extras a lot, it's not a good look, especially on a ship that size, especially since it was supposed to be like even bigger and better than the original Titanic, which had 2,200 people on board. In the original Titanic, you see, especially at the exterior shots when the ship is sinking, like, you see there is literally thousands of people on board, like actual thousands of actors are running and everyone's going crazy, and it looks so authentic because that's probably what it would have looked like on the real night of its sinking. But in this movie, you just keep seeing the same actors, and they keep showing like the same footage of like people running up the stairs trying to escape, and everyone's freaking out, everyone's panicking, everyone's running and falling over nothing, like literally just tripping over their own shadows. Nobody knows what they're doing, everyone's running wild. Like, at least in the Titanic, it seemed like everyone was trying to either get to a lifeboat, or when they realized all the boats were gone, and you have that one like magnificent scene when it shows the ship side on and it's like sterns up in the air and everyone's running to the back in unison. That always sends chills down my spine, that scene, just before the dome crashes in. But it's like the people where you could see that they were doing what normal people would do. Everyone's trying to get into a lifeboat, realizing there isn't any left, so everyone's natural reaction is to get to the back of the ship and try and stay on long as possible. But in this movie, everyone's just running amok. Like, everyone's running all over the place, and it just seems so silly to me. Not even just that, but the way these people looked, it was as if, I wouldn't be surprised if they literally took people from the street and said, hey, you want to just walk around in the background of my new movie? I'll give you $20. And everyone was like, yeah, sure. Like, it literally looked like they were just taken off the streets. Like, there was such a diverse group of people. It just didn't look like in the Titanic, it's the fanciest ship in the world. It's going to be monumental. It's going to break records. It's a historic moment. Everyone's dressed to their best. Everyone's in tuxedos, and women are wearing these beautiful dresses, and everyone looks so elegant and classy. And this took place in 2010, this other movie, this second one that we're talking about. So, of course, like, times have changed. But everyone's literally just, some people are wearing literally like gym shorts and a t-shirt. Some people are wearing like sweats, and like some people are like, one guy who looked like a rock star or something, like a punk rocker. It's just such a bizarre collection of people, and like there's some old people and stuff like that. This video is gonna go all over the place, but so did the movie, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to think back to like what I remember. Another thing that caught my attention was there was not a single child on board the ship. I don't think you've seen a single child in the entire movie, actually. And that just kind of came to me when they were saying women and children first. I was like, wait, I haven't seen a single child on this ship. And I've seen like 10 women and probably 10 guys too. Like, there isn't any more than that. There seems to be more crew on this ship than there is actual passengers. Keep in mind, this is a luxury cruise liner that's big enough to house thousands of people, and yet there's only like a handful of people that they just picked up off the streets. It's so bad. I get it, the budget wasn't there. They probably had to like cheap out a little bit, but if you're gonna do something like this, if you're gonna make a movie, I guess they just wanted to capitalize on the title Titanic, knowing it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna attract attention just because of the title alone. But if you're gonna do something like that, you gotta really have the funds to do it. You can't just cheap out on something like that. A project about the Titanic, you can't really cheap out on something of that magnitude. Another thing that I found kind of amusing was the fact that the ship's officers, as you guys know, in my previous video, I dressed in an officer uniform entirely, not just the hat, but entirely in like a Titanic officer uniform. I was going to do it for every one of these videos, but it just seemed like too much work putting on a uniform every day, so I just thought, yeah, I'll just rock the hat. Can't even really see the uniform anyway, except for like this high, so it was kind of pointless. But I noticed the uniforms on the officers in this movie were just like, whoever tailored them, I don't even think they tailored them. I think they just bought a bunch in bulk before they even auditioned people for the movie. We're like, okay, we're gonna need like so many officers' uniforms for this, so just order a bunch in. We'll get a couple small, a couple medium, and a couple extra large and whatever. And then they just got these guys, gave them the jobs, and then we're like, okay, you're gonna have to make this work. It doesn't look like it's gonna fit, but you know, do what you can to make it work. Some of them just look so ridiculous, like the captain especially. At the beginning of the movie, well, near the beginning of before they take off, he is introduced to the passengers, and they're like, this is the captain, and everyone claps for him. And his uniform, like when you look at his pants from the long shot, his pants are like 4 sizes too big. Like, they're so long that he's just got this like crumpled up pile of fabric at the bottom of his legs. They're so baggy. It wouldn't be surprised if they're literally like 4 sizes too big. And the jacket, he was literally swimming in the jacket, no pun intended, but it was like so big on him, it looked like a kid trying on his dad's clothes. And I noticed the hats too. As I told you guys yesterday, I got this Titanic White Star Line hat. And this is just a regular officer hat, but I wanted the captain one originally, and the only difference was the captain's one had these leaves like this right here, but like along the brim, and the brim was felt. And the only reason I know about that is because I looked into it because of that. I was trying to find out what the difference was. And I found in this movie that a lot of the ship's officers, they were wearing captain hats, all of them. There was the main captain, Captain Howard, and then there was like the officers below, like first officer, second officer, things like that. And they were all wearing captain hats, and I looked into it just to make sure that I was right here, and yeah, it's pretty much it. The movie made a big mistake giving everyone, so I think what they did was they just went on Amazon and they just decided to buy a bunch of, like, they're like, okay, quantity 6, order. I think that's what they did. I think they did that. I think they just bought a bunch of captain hats on like Amazon. They didn't even look like legit ones. Like, this one looks legit. This is a real, it's made of wool. Even on the inside, it's got like silk lined. It's got a leather brim. It's like literally, I got this from an Etsy shop that does like replica uniforms. And so it's basically a real hat. This looks genuine. What they were wearing in that movie looked like this cheap polyester crap that they probably bought on, probably not even Amazon. It looked more like something they got on like Temu or something, although Temu wasn't around back then, but it looked like something of that quality. Even the hats, just some of them didn't even fit. One guy had it and it was like real small, like it was just so big on his head. I mean, it made his head look small, but the hat was like so big. And yeah, it just looked like such a joke. Now let's talk a little bit about the main character, Hayden. He's the ship owner. He's basically the Bruce Ismay of this movie. He's like inherited this huge like company from his dad or something like that. Honestly, I can't really even remember. The fact that I know that the actor of this character not only was this actor, but he was also like the writer and director of this movie. That makes me cringe so much more now because the movie was so bad, especially his character. It was like he was trying to be Jack Dawson, and they did steal a few scenes from the original Titanic. Like there's one scene when they're running down the hallway, and you know, like it reminded me of that slow motion scene where Jack and Rose are running and the water's like gushing behind them. It was like a cheaper version of that. They tried to reenact it in slow motion, but the guy kind of played himself off as like he was trying to be Jack Dawson, but he came across as like a narcissist, like a total narcissist. Even in the opening of the movie, he's literally like walking with 4 girls around his arms, with his arms around 4 girls. The more I got into that movie, the more I couldn't help but cringe. Like you could just see that the guy loved himself. I think his name was Shane Van Dyke in real life. But again, there's kind of like a rip-off version of the Jack and Rose love scene, like the I'll never let go scene, except they're trapped in a cabinet, and I don't even know why they went in there in the first place. I don't understand that. The dad of this girl that he's like, it's I guess his ex-girlfriend, this main character Hayden, he's the ship owner. He's got this girlfriend who's like working in the infirmary on the ship, and they both end up like reconciling and stuff like that, and then it's the two of them against everything else trying to survive the shipwreck, which again, it was hit by an iceberg because of a fallen glacier that happened, and it caused like a tsunami, an 800 miles an hour tsunami or something like that. And I don't think I don't know much about tsunamis or how fast they travel, but apparently like they were getting radioed over, and they were like, this iceberg is traveling toward, the lifeboats aren't going to save you, your ship's like well-built body is not going to protect the ship, it's going to be torn in half because this iceberg is traveling to you at 800 miles an hour. 800 miles an hour? Are you sure? Like, do you know how fast that is? That's literally like, that for an iceberg to be traveling that fast, that's like twice the speed of like a plane. Like a plane going twice as fast. I don't know. I can't really wrap my head around an iceberg traveling at that speed, but that's what they said, so. But anyway, they got trapped in this cabinet toward the end, like a literal file cabinet. They decided to go inside the cabinet together when they realized there was no more swim suits, like what are they called? Like a wetsuit to keep you from like getting hypothermia and stuff, like when you're deep sea diving or snorkeling and things like that. There was only one left, so he gave it to the girl, being the hero he is. The narcissistic hero that wanted to be praised for being like Jack Dawson. He gave her the swimsuit and the oxygen tank. The girl that he's with has been radioing over to her dad, who's on a helicopter. He's coming out to rescue her. And the ship ends up capsizing completely, so it's completely upside down because of another wave. The two of them are just inside this they get in the cabinet, even though the ship is sinking. Like if a ship is sinking, the last place I'm going to do is go and lock myself in a cabinet. But they get in this cabinet, they lock themselves in it. Well, they don't mean to. Something falls and it locks them in against the door. And then they realize when they try to get back out, they're like, oh wait, something's jamming the door, we're stuck. The water's rising. Again, it's like a rip off of the scene when Jack and Rose lose the key and they're behind the gate. The water's rising, and he's like, I get it, you know, it's based on the Titanic, so of course they've got to emphasize the water being cold. Though I don't think Jack, except for like the beginning of the movie and the first one, I don't think Jack ever mentioned the water being cold when he was actually in the water. He never mentioned it. I don't think many people do, because probably when you're in water that cold, your body is just, you're not going to talk about how cold the water is. I think you're just going to be trying to do whatever to survive, or talk about like important things. But the guy in this movie, the water was like rising, and the two of them are just in this cabinet, and he's like, she's like, we can share the oxygen tank, and he's like, I'm gonna die of cold before I drown. And she's like, well, I'll give you the swimsuit then. He's like, no, because then I'm gonna drown. Like, it seemed like he wanted to die almost. It's like he watched Titanic 1 and just was like, you know what, I want to go out this way. I want to be a hero just like Jack Dawson. It's kind of like he was just adamant he wanted to die. Like, he literally had no survival instincts at all. He was just trying so desperately to be the hero. Anyway, this cabinet, which is in the ship, could have been anywhere in the ship. Keep in mind, you know how big the regular Titanic was. Now, make that a little bigger. Supposedly, that's what this was. So imagine the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe even 1,000 rooms in this entire ship. how did the guy know where the cabinet was, the dad? Because he came to the ship just in the nick of time and pulled his daughter out of the cabinet. He was wearing a snorkel thing. Keep in mind the ship went under at this point, so the ship is like plummeting down. And I don't know if they know this, but like the speed the Titanic was going down under the water was like, I can't remember the exact number. I don't want to say anything in case I'm wrong, but it was an extreme speed. I think it was something like 30 miles an hour, which is fast, you know, when you just think of a ship free falling. And it took them so long to kind of get out of this cabinet and everything like that, and they're snorkeling. And I just felt like in the time that it took them, and the ship's just going down and down and down with them trapped inside it, it would get to a point where the pressure probably, I don't really know how those oxygen tanks work, but I know you can only go so far in them. But I'm pretty sure they must have been a very far way down, to the point where like it's bad, it's like dangerous for humans to be down there. I don't know, just another thing I picked up on. But yeah, the dad successfully saved the girl. Can't remember her name, it's not important anyway. There was not a single person on the ship that I was rooting for. There was not, like, I guess this was they were trying to do the Jack and Rose thing, like have this like love story thing between them, but it just didn't have the same effect on me at all. Like, I really didn't care about any of these characters. Basically, the dad comes, frees her from the cabinet. She's got a snorkel outfit on, he's got a snorkel costume on too. They pull the dead guy out because he does pass out or die or whatever under the water. He just seems to just kind of just go. Whether he drowned or froze to death, that's to be determined. But they pull him out, they get him back to this life raft that's floating on the top of the ocean. They bring him in there, they try to resuscitate him, and sure enough, he gets what he always wanted, the Jack Dawson death. He didn't come back alive. So Hayden, the captain, the ship's owner, he died. Not that anyone cares, like I said. Yeah, that's pretty much how the movie just ends. It's like she realizes he won't wake up, and that's it. It just ends. Not even like a I'll never let you go or anything like that. It just ends. Like, it stops right there, credits and everything. Yeah, it's just so bad. It's worth watching, honestly, though. I would recommend it for a laugh. Like, if you and your friends want to hang out and you got nothing to do one night, just watch that. It will make you laugh. You will have a great time. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, and remember to chase your dreams.